it lets us know that there's still other people, because there's not all kings and everybody's on the throne.
Right.
It's not all priests, and everybody's given that privilege and that honor. But that means that there's still, if there needs to be a leader, that means there's some followers. If there's not a need for leaders, because there are no followers. So that right there lets us know there's still others that are there. So again, it's just, it doesn't necessarily say, oh, you ain't getting in. But if Yahweh has given you the right of a priest, He's given you the right of a king, why would you want anything less? That's all I'm saying. So then what we see happen, as we get down further, is Satan is now released. And look at how it phrases this. In 8, and he shall go out to lead the nations astray. Here we go again. He's doing his job. So what he thinks is his job. He goes out once again. He's released after this 1,000 years, and he's now attempting to lead the nations astray. And it says even from all four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, which speak to a northern kingdom. And in the matter of fact, let's read that. Let's go to Ezekiel 38, chapter 38, verse 14. Chapter 38, we'll start at verse 14, we'll read down to 16, and then we'll jump to 22. So starting at verse 14, therefore, Son of man, prophesy, and you shall say to Gog, thus saith the Master Yahweh, in that day when my people Israel dwell safely, would you not know? And remember, we're talking about a period that lasts 1,000 years, that basically the deceiver is gone and everything's all good, right? So this is a time of peace, and a time of safety, and a time that we don't have to worry about all of that. But here we see, so we'll pick back up at 15, and you shall come from your place out of the north. Remember, it says that he's going to be released, and you and many peoples with you. And remember, it says that he goes out and he deceives the nations. This is what he's doing. He's gathering up his army. You don't want to be in his army and not know it. And many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you shall come up against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. So that's a dead giveaway that this is what we're talking about. Because it very clearly says, in the latter days. And I shall bring you, and I, Yahweh, and I shall bring you against my land, in order that the nations know me when I am set apart in you, O God, before their eyes. Now let's jump down to 22 and see what he's done. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain, and hailstones, fire, and sulfur on him, and on his bands, and on the many peoples who are with him. So let's go back to 20, and that lines up perfectly, because it's exactly what we see happening. We see again that Gog and Magog being from the north, and that Magog refers to a barbarous northern region, is how it describes it even. And then if we read in 20, it describes what we just finished reading, and that is, and they came up, starting at verse 9, and they came up over the breadth of the and surrounded the camp of the set-apart ones and the beloved city. And fire, this is what we read in 22, and fire came down from Elohim out of the heaven and consumed them. And the devil who led them astray, again, the witnesses are there. And the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake, and the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were. So earlier, we had already read, I believe in 19, where the beast and the prophet were bound and put into the lake of fire. And now they're being joined right now by the devil, who we started reading about earlier, also referred to as the dragon, the serpent of old, and Satan, all referring to the same. And then it gets into now, it says that I saw a great white throne, and him who was sitting on it. See, again, we get back to that. Before it talked about many thrones. Here again, we're talking about one throne. It says, and him who was sitting on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before this throne with books, and the books were open.
Yeah.
And then it speaks to it, and you see how it sets it apart. So I definitely feel like there are different levels of judgment. There are different levels of, your obedience, really. Because it says that there were books open. But then it spoke to this particular book. And it said, this is the book of life. And it set a very hard line in the sand. And it says right here that the book of life either has your name or it doesn't.
That's right.
And if your name is not in the book of life, you can only be in one other place.
That's right.
Very hard line in the sand. That's why I believe that there's these other books. That's why I believe there's kings and priests and other levels of people. Because, believe it or not, we're about to read it. Your works got something to do with it. So let's read it. Don't trust me. Trust the word. At the end of 12, and it says, and the dead were judged from what was written in the books. And what was written in the books? According to their faith. Huh? According to their faith?
Wow.
They just believe it and receive it?
According to their works.
According to their works?
Oh.
Are you serious?
You gotta do something.
I gotta do something?
Yeah.
According to their works.
Right.
No, his works on the cross. It says according to their works. That means they play a role in their own salvation. This is the difference between Yom Kippur and also the time of unleavened bread. You play a role in one of those.
Exactly.
Yom Kippur, we can't do it. We can't give atonement for ourselves. We can't cleanse our own heart. We can't cover our own heart. Our blood is stained already. It's garbage. It won't work. That's Yom Kippur.
That's right.
But guess what? Unleavened bread, do Yeshua come in and do Yeshua come clean y'all's cabinets out? He said, this is your job.
That's right.
You get the leaven out.
Right.
You get it out.
That's right. You
Get the leaven out. He didn't say, I'll come and put the blood on everything and all the leaven will disappear. No. You get the leaven out. It's your job. That's your works. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that works ain't got nothing to do with it.
Yep.
You can't have faith and no works.
That's right.
There you
James,
go.
James says that.
Show me your faith. I'll show you my faith by my works.
That's right.
You will know what I am by what I do,
It's dead.
not just what I believe. I'm going to do what I believe.
That's right.
So we see right there. We see it right there. And that book of life is tied to it. Tied to it. That's, we don't want to mess with that. And in 13 it says in the sea, and we're talking about this sea again. Remember we talked about this sea being just a big conglomerate of people, nations, all nations. Not, you know, we're not pointing out any individual nation, but this sea being just a big group of peoples.
Right.
Peoples. Peoples.
Right.
And it says, and the sea gave up the dead. And who were in it, and death and Sheol gave up the dead and who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works. Yet again, according to his works. Now after Yahweh has, because we're back to this dead, remember those that are living, those that are alive but dead. Those who are, again, I use the example, I love God.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be obedient to him. I think this is the other opportunity right here. Because now a judging of your heart is taking place. Because the dead, now death, the sea, those in the sea, and those in Hades, which is actually the way it translates is to Hades, and the way that word, what that word means is simply unseen. Unseen. So what is unseen? Blinded. So we have those that are blinded, those who can't see. So we have still an opportunity being given, because at this time now those chains are released and they are now allowed to be judged. So now they're allowed to be judged. And then it speaks and it says, and if anyone was not found written, oh, I'm sorry, very important piece. Remember we talked about the second death. And it says, this is the second death. Earlier we talked about the first. And it says, blessed are those who avoided the first and who were in that first resurrection. And so speaking to this as being now the second. And that there's now a second wind of people who are allowed an opportunity, really, is what this is. A last opportunity. And then it says, on down in the 15 now, and if anyone was not found written in the book of life. Now remember, there were other books. There were other things that were going on. Now, my theory is real simple. If one book sends you out, and there's other books, you don't need no more books on that side. Because what you going to do with those? All of them have the same fate. They all end up the same place. So there are these other books. That means first level is if your name is in the book of life. Now we go to these other books. And now it's determined, are you a priest? Are you a king? You know, what are your works? What are your works? Because that's exactly what it says there. But then in 15 again, just getting back to that, it says, anyone who was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Now, you join death, Hades, the dragon, the beast, and his image. You join.
All that you worship.
So, one of the things I looked at was the book of life. What's the criteria? Kind of hard to pinpoint, so I found a couple things that let us know what'll definitely keep you out. So if we can just start there, we'll be all right.